We need to deal with the problem, not the language which is used. We shouldn't be attacking people who use the wrong sort of language. We should be listening to what is being said and ensuring that the problems which are identified, however they are interpreted, are then sorted out. So this morning, there was a story about different forms of extremism. The Prime Minister saying that there are loners in attics, and Yvette Cooper saying that she wasn't going to expand the definition of extremism. But then just a few minutes later, the Home Office report highlights a worrying shift from targeting specific ideologies like extremism, like Islam or the far right, towards harms-based approach behaviour focused on behaviours. While this might seem a pragmatic solution to the dizzying range of modern threats, it risks entangling legitimate criticism in the same net as extremism. And the instance which has been flagged up by the Daily Telegraph of the classification of claims about two-tier policing to be defined as extremist is outrageous. And the narrative exploited by far-right figures criticises perceived disparities between the way police treat protests or crimes involving different groups. Farage has wielded this argument frequently, as did Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick. And while I personally object to and reject Farage's interpretations, to label such criticisms as extremist, even to promote that discussion, verges on authoritarianism. And democracy thrives on dissent, on debate and the exchange of ideas, even when some opinions are distasteful. The report also highlights how right-wing extremists exploit social fractures, such as grooming gang scandals, to stoke anti-Muslim sentiment. And while I think we have to address these narratives' harmful manipulation, suppressing discussion only amplifies distrust and fuels division. A democracy that cannot tolerate criticism, however flawed, is a fragile one. And the report's broadening scope encompasses misogyny, conspiracy theories, and even environmental activism. And while addressing harmful behaviours is vital, lumping vastly different phenomena together risks diluting counter-extremism efforts and eroding trust in law enforcement. And Policy Exchange's criticism is sharp. This approach could easily overwhelm already strained counter-terrorism resources, making it harder to identify genuine threats. Moreover, describing those who criticise institutional failings as extremists stifles accountability. And if criticising the police or the Home Office or government becomes taboo, how can we hope to progress? Even if suggesting that these things should become taboo, how can we hope to progress? Elon Musk's two-tier Keir jibe might be reductive, but the broader debate on equitable policing is one we must engage in, not suppress. When we suppress discussion, it goes underground. Criticism is not the enemy, it is the catalyst for growth. Just as satire is a catalyst for growth. Farage's narrative, while distasteful, taps into public frustrations and public perception. Ignoring or criminalising these perspectives pushes dissent underground, where it festers into something far more dangerous. As Chris Philp aptly puts it, commenting on police response to incidents is not far right. Freedom of speech means that they have the right to express their views. And those views should be challenged, of course, but not the right to express them. The Home Office's report's recommendations to increase the recording of non-crime hate incidents, that exemplifies this overreach. While hate incidents can escalate into violence, policing thoughts or speech risks veering into Orwellian territory, and distinctions must remain clear. Violence and incitement demand intervention, but criticism and even controversial opinions should not do so. Extremism, as the report itself admits, does not always lead to violence. And addressing its underlying causes, inequality, social alienation, distrust in institutions, and over-reliance on something like YouTube with its algorithm, requires open dialogue. Branding entire narratives or criticisms as extremist undermines that effort. And it alienates the very people we have to engage with in order to build a cohesive and a working society. Dan Jarvis rightly rejects the report's recommendations, but they are there in print, and they are celebrated on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today now. He reaffirms that Islamist and far-right ideologies remain the greatest threats, yet even within these domains, care must be taken not to overreach. A nuanced, evidence-based approach to extremism, one that respects free speech and dissent, is the only justifiable and sustainable path forward. Is the only way that we can proceed in an open society. And even to consider any alternative is to step across that red line. We should not be afraid of criticism. A robust democracy learns from it and embraces its discomfort. It emerges stronger. If we label every dissenting voice as extremist, if we label everybody as belonging to this group or to that group, we are in a form of madness. We risk silencing the very voices that can drive progress. Farage may be wrong. I think he is. But he has a right to be so. And I would happily sit down to a cup of tea with him and discuss that right. And Suella Braverman and Kemi Badenoch, though I don't expect to get very much sense out of Kemi Badenoch. Our challenge is not to suppress, but to counter bad ideas with better ones, rooted in reason and in justice. It's only when people are dead that ideas fossilize. So I don't imagine there'll be much more of a conversation with Putin. But with Farage, I'm sure, is open to a conversation. And I'm sure Farage is open to the option of persuading others to his views. How else does anybody proceed? But there has to be that exchange, that opportunity for an exchange of ideas, even ideas which are uncomfortable.